India has a far richer tradition of cinema than China or Iran. Yet today they are far ahead in the international arena. Names like, well, there are lots of names. Do you find any reason for this?
Yes, of course, because I've been watching the development of Chinese cinema or Iranian cinema for the last 25 years. What they have done is incredible work in the area of marketing, which we have failed completely. We tried. Our the Department of Film Festival, they tried, NFDC tried, many other organizations tried to enter into other areas. But what Chinese have done is unbelievable. In last 15 years or 10 years, I must say, what they have done, the moment they started a new production, they appointed agents all over the world during the production period. So, in fact, you know, all the big festivals like Cannes, Jules Jacob, or in Venice, Rondi, they told me that we are so happy with Chinese because we are so sure about their films. The moment they begin a film, they start a movie, they inform us that, sir, we will be ready for your next festival. Now we are doing editing, we are doing mixing. So well organized. They have very good agents, very good distributors all over the world, and they have promoted their films extremely well. Where really we are lacking far behind of China and Iran. Iran, of course, a different situation, not so well organized, or they couldn't afford such big money like China. But Iran, some filmmakers had created a kind of a niche in Europe. So they could market their film. For instance, Kiarostami's last film, which won an award in Cannes, was released in Europe immediately. I've seen the film. It's not a great film. It's not a great movie. It's an interesting film. And I'm sure that there are many Indian films have market potential, but we are like frog in the well. We are not trying. We're trying out. What we are planning that one day perhaps we'll make a film in Hollywood or in Europe. No. You have to market your own film in your own language, which can be dubbed or in subtitle. What they have done in Chinese. Chinese, you know, they didn't make films in English. They made their films in Chinese, or in Iran make their film in their own language. But we are ambitious that forget about your own language. Perhaps one day I'll make an English film. I'll make an English film, and that is the only ambition. But we are not trying to promote our cinema.
Okay, at home, do you think seriousness and entertainment could coexist? Perhaps there could be some elements from the two which could, you know, be brought together and blended in a sort of way to make films which are hits, as well as films which remain for a long time.
It's a very difficult question, I tell you, because, you know, there is no straight-cut answer. You cannot. In my opinion, you cannot plan this kind of permutation and combination, that some elements for entertainment, some elements for seriousness. It's impossible. It comes automatically or spontaneously. But a film should entertain audience. Entertain means, you know, it should touch his nervous system. You know, in somehow, you know, it should touch, whether it's a small audience or a large audience. So there is no formula for this kind of combination. A lot of people tried that middle road cinema, half commercial, half arty. No, it doesn't work at all. I don't like. What I feel that you are responsible for your own audience, and one has to know the target audience and the purpose of a particular project. For instance, if I make a film for a producer who is not bothered for a big hall release, I'll go for a different kind of experiment, which of course I want to do. But when I make movies for our own theaters, I keep in mind my own audience, my small audience, because I shouldn't do something, some kind of experiment which will go over their heads. It should touch them. And again, I give classic example from Ray. When Ray made Kanchenjunga in '62, the film was far ahead of its time. Kanchenjunga was not accepted well at home. Even in abroad, people thought that why Ray is making this kind of movies. This is a subject of Antonioni or Bresso. So it's a real irony that it was not accepted well in Europe in those days. But Ray was a great master. He knew that he made a masterpiece. Once I asked him, Manida, what was your reaction? He said, I thought that the film is much ahead of its time. People are not prepared. Now what's happening in Europe, the same group of people are saying this is one of the greatest masterpieces. It's an irony, isn't it an irony? But Ray, what he did, he never followed that track, that kind of genre. He changed immediately. He never repeated Kanchenjunga. Kanchenjunga was a different kind of film. You know, it's in real time, there is no strong narrative, it's a different kind of structure, quite an experiment in those days. The next film Ray made is Obhijan, a very saucy, strong story from Tarashankar. So he was also caring for your audience. You have to care for your audience, whether it's a small or a large audience.
Do you think granting industry status is going to work to the betterment of serious filmmakers?
Oh, well, industry status is very difficult. Again, it's a kind of a paradox because we all want that the cinema should get the recognition as an industry. But at the same time, there are certain modalities which it's very difficult in our country to work effectively. I don't know what will happen under the industry. You have to follow the norms of the industry. What will happen about the Provident Fund? What will happen with other parks and industry? You know, people under industry gets, because still cinema is very disorganized industry, and most of the people are freelancer. How it will you can combine all the elements? It's very difficult. It's a good move, but I think it's a very difficult move. It will take time. You cannot solve it in one day. It shouldn't become an election stunt or other kind of stunt. People should think it very seriously and lay out many modalities how to approach towards that area. It's a very difficult move, but I appreciate the move. Why not?
Okay, we are nearing absolutely the end here. This is the second last. The serious filmmakers say that there is a certain group or class which sees their kind of cinema. As you had sometimes spoken about, I'm not disparaging the fact, but you said that at times I make films for my small audience, etc. But at times you have a model class which is actually small, as opposed to big, which is supposed to be the addressee group for cinema. Would it not be scandalous if finances or talents are mobilized for the production of a cinema to be catering solely to a privileged or small or underprivileged or whatever group?
Well, it depends that whether you call cinema as an art form or not. In my opinion, cinema is a language. Sometimes it can reach to the level of art form, not always. I don't claim that whatever I made has reached to the level of art. Sometimes it can reach. In order to reach that area, you shouldn't think about this kind of financial arrangement. One has to sponsor. Like, the great arts were sponsored by feudal lords. The great arts were sponsored by states, especially in Soviet Russia at one point. So, you need sponsorship for great art. But at the same time, cinema is such an expression where you have to make a real combination of many elements. Financial arrangement, then your own expression, how you can bring out your own expression through all these elements. So it's a very difficult area. It cannot be defined. Cinema, we have reached almost 100 years. 100 years means, the projection of movie to the audience. So it's nothing, no time at all. But in 100 years, we have seen a great change, a sea of change in cinema. And this change, cinema technology is very ruthless. Because, all these factors are involved: art, commerce, passion, depression, joy, sorrow, all these things are combined together. what we have noticed, when a great art form of silent cinema was growing, taking its own style, it's creating its own language, the moment sound came, it disappeared, totally disappeared. When color came, black and white totally disappeared. So it's a ruthless medium. And you know, it's again a paradoxical situation that you have a growth of technology, at the same time many very beautiful things are disappearing. So it's only 100 years. We don't know what will happen in the next century.
Do you think that serious cinema is dead today?
Not at all. It cannot. Not at all. Because you know, anything which is serious, you know, it becomes, you know, it becomes dormant for some time. Again, it comes up. It cannot be dead. You know, you can't call it dead. It's in a transition. Now, I'm sure it was necessary to teach the filmmakers that what you are doing is not always right. It's a great lesson for the filmmakers themselves who are doing things seriously. That if you are serious, you have to also you have to become serious about your movies. And it's not that whatever you are creating is great. No, it has to be time tested. So I think this was necessary. This will help filmmakers to create better movies in the future.